On today's show, there was a fantastic rookie duel last night. Knueppel, Cooper Flagg. We're going to break down that game and talk about the Rookie of the Year race and just what makes these two guys so special. And then the Thunder drop another game, this time to the Timberwolves. Do they have a ball handling issue? And our team's finally able to rough them up. And then later in the show, Steven Adams has an injury update. Aaron Gordon has an injury update. And Giannis Antetokounmpo is linked to some new teams. We're going to talk about all of that and more on today's show. What is up, everybody, and welcome to the All-NBA show powered by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/All-NBA. I'm your host, Adam Mares. I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, as always, on Fridays. It's Jason Timpf. How you doing today, brother?
Hey, buddy. It's good to see you. I'm feeling under the weather, and yet I'm still very happy because I finally got some awesome skiing in the last couple of days.
Is that what did it to you?
From last weekend. For the first time, I wasn't skiing on a skating rink. I was able to let loose a little bit. I had a great time. Felt happy for my friends who had paid their hard-earned money to go up there and ski. I'm glad it wasn't a complete bust. But yeah, dude, I'm excited to talk some of these young players, Knueppel and Cooper Flagg. And I do think there's some interesting – I know the Giannis stuff has been talked to death, but I think there's some interesting angles to get into.
We're going to get into that later on in the show because I am very interested in this idea of being linked to both the Knicks and the Minnesota Timberwolves. Both of those teams, it's what a conundrum about trying to pursue Giannis in a year where you're contending. So we'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, let's dive into these games, man. Last night's game, you know, I watch these late. When there's a Nuggets game, I have to be covering that one. I'm in studio. I'm doing a bunch of different stuff. So I don't get to these games till after they happened. And I'm watching that game unfold it like on the timeline and in the box score while I'm watching the Nuggets game. And I'm sitting here thinking, I can't wait to get to this because it sounds like it was fantastic. It lived up to the hype. The first half, the first quarter of this game was unbelievable. There was all this buildup about the matchup between the two ex-teammates, the two rookies. And the first, 6 minutes of this game, it was like Knueppel came out just guns blazing from three. You could see Cooper Flagg be like, okay, it's going to be like that. Started to respond. And it was just a fantastic game. That's my first note for you.
Yeah, and Knueppel ended up actually guarding Cooper quite a bit, and Cooper was going at him with that pull-up jump shot. I thought both players in many ways got to showcase their specific sets of strengths.
Totally.
Cooper had 22 points at the rim in this game, which was his season high to this point. I think that's been like, if you're looking, every superstar's got to have like a foundational strength. And you could tell for Cooper, it's attacking in that short range and then at the rim. Like he's 61% at the rim. A lot of young wings especially will struggle there. They'll be in the mid 50s, low 50s to start their careers because just the physicality and just understanding the spacing. He's already got such a natural feel for how to attack and when to attack and how to finish when he gets there. He's 56% on hooks and floaters this year. It's all that short range shot making that he's been very gifted at so far early in his career. I think that is his foundational piece. It's the two-way element. Obviously, he brings this like defensive versatility as an athlete, but this is a guy that attacks. And when he attacks, he's got a variety of ways to score when he gets there. And that was just like, I mean, if you're going to get to super high scoring totals, like if you're going to get over 40, if you're going to get over 50, you got to be able to get to the rim a bunch. And you got to be able to hit some jump shots. And that was really the big piece that kind of lifted him up as he had that pull-up three going last night, especially that big one late that tied the game. That was a big shot. I have to say, though, Adam, like before we go any further into these young guys, as exciting as Cooper was, as exciting as Khan was, and I know I'm not the biggest LaMelo Ball fan in the world, but he was unbelievable down the stretch of that game. He hit that huge three on the left wing and then couple of beautiful bits of advantage creation, just toasted Max Christie off the dribble for that drop off to Moussa Diabate for the dunk. And then very simple 2 on the ball sequence and a ball screen where he feeds it over the top, extra pass to Brandon Miller in the left corner. Brandon Miller, I don't know if we're going to talk about him much today, but he's been unbelievable as of late. I wanted to shout out LaMelo Ball because I thought he really, as things kind of grinded down at the end of that game, he took over on offense for Charlotte and he played really well.
There's a lot of young players that were very interesting in this game, and I do want to talk about all of them, including Brandon Miller, who had some very big moments in this one. And I should say at the top, we are going to make this our FanDuel game breakdown. We like to break down one game in depth. This is going to be our FanDuel game breakdown. Remember, you can go to FanDuel.com/AllNBA and use the code AllNBA. So you mentioned Cooper Flagg's finishing at the rim, and I want to talk about this because Cooper Flagg, it can be a power finisher, and he had some monster dunks. He's so springy. He transfers his energy really well from like running full speed at the rim with those long strides, but then transfers it vertically really easily and effortlessly, which not everybody can do. It's a real skill of his. It takes like unique muscles, core strength muscles, I think, to be able to do that. But that alone would not make you a great finisher because you don't always get to dunk. What made him a great finisher last night, and look, last night was his night. He made some shots that look like he probably won't make these all the time, but he is so good at finishing at weird angles. Like he'll attack really hard, take a contact, go up left, and kind of just like hook it up with touch. And he did it last night. It felt like 7 or 8 times where he had these finishes that were not above the rim or not power finishes, but they were like a combination of going hard, getting contact, and then finishing with finesse. And I actually think, having watched him enough now, I actually think that's one of his superpowers. Like one of the things that makes him unique is his ability to make these off-balance, weird angle finishes at the rim in addition to the power finishes.
No, absolutely. And I think one of the big pieces that you mentioned that I think is key there is the energy transfer on his takeoffs. So like a lot of times players, when they get downhill, the only footwork they understand for attacking the rim is 1 foot jumping. So like if they drive right, they take off of their left foot and they extend off with their right hand, or they drive left and they take off of their right foot and they extend with their left hand. It's all very 1 foot jumpy. And the problem with that is you need a runway. You need a clean runway. And if anybody can disrupt you or bump you at all when you're jumping off of 1 foot, you can lose your balance. So taking off of 2 feet is the key to being able to finish in traffic consistently, because that's how you can power through contact. And like one of the things that Cooper does really well is he'll take off with the takeoff that a lot of players use for dunks, like that right-left takeoff, and then he'll be able to get out to his left hand for these layups, like you're talking about, these like kind of wide-angle finishes, and that gives him just a deeper bag of finishes that he can go to when he gets to the rim. And he's like, it's pretty rare, Adam. Like there are only 14 non-centers in the entire NBA right now that are attempting or that have made at least 4 shots at the rim per game and that are shooting at least 60% on them. Now, 14 might seem like a pretty long list, but when you think about him as a rookie, as a 19-year-old, to be one of 14 non-centers to be making at least 4 shots at the rim, at least 60%. I think that's a super impressive stat. And I take it a step further when you factor in the fact that coming out of college, that was one of the concerns with him, was people were worried about his ability to finish at the rim. And it just hasn't been a problem here early. And I'm 100% with you. You got to have something in that short range, scooping bank shots, floaters, hooks. Him being 56% on hooks and floaters. We've talked about this all the time with Jokic. Jokic is an entirely different level. And every time I watch the Rockets and I see Şengün miss 6 more of those like little floaters and hooks, I'm like, yeah, see, this is the difference, right? But like you got to have a guy who, when he gets to the rim but gets stopped short of the rim, can make something consistently in that short range. And Cooper being well over 50% on those, I think that bodes well for him as a crunch time scorer as he gets later into his career.
Especially given how easily he gets there. And that's the thing, man. In transition, I mean, like we just try to extrapolate what this guy's going to be. And I mean, obviously a superstar, 49 points, the highest score. We should mention this is the highest single game output of a teenager ever in NBA history. So to show you what a big deal this is. That was the stat I saw making the rounds last night. 49 points. And which is a bummer he didn't get 50, to be honest with you. Like I was watching the game just thinking it'd just be great if he got over the hump. But his ability in transition, he has the Giannis stride, where the strides are just so long, and he's so athletic that you watch him passing guys with the ball, weaving in and out of guys because of how long those strides are. But even off of just like catch the ball, kind of face up, rip through and go, his strides are so long and he's so athletic that he can get around guys just off of that. And what I love about him, JT, the NBA's been around for so long. We've seen so many different types of players. And I love that we're still getting new guys. I don't think he's like anyone. And I'm not saying like he has a collection of skills we've seen. It's not that we've never seen the skills. We've just never seen this collection of them together. And it's so neat to watch because I don't think it serves you to try to say, oh, he's going to be this guy or that guy. I actually think he's a one-of-one style player. And that's why I think it's so fascinating.
No, I agree with you because like he kind of physically looks more like a slender wing. I think he'll fill out over the years. Like I think when Cooper's 24, he's going to be built like just a truck. But like so many of those slender wings have a settling problem. Like so many of them end up more like Brandon Miller and Paul George than they do like these aggressive basket attacking type of wings. And for him just to, again, to be at the volume that he's at the rim. And I love that you talked about off the catch. He had a dunk in the first half, a vicious poster dunk. I can't remember if it was over Kalkbrenner or Diabate, but it was just like a kind of a catch around the elbow extended at the top. And immediately on the catch, he just turned and faced and ripped. And I think Brandon Miller was on, if I remember correctly, but he was being guarded with an open stance. So like the guy that was guarding him was just kind of sitting on his left shoulder, opening up to that right-hand drive.
Right.
And so when Cooper turned, he just immediately went into a rip-through move and was right by him, and then just elevated and just Statue of Liberty just dunked all over. I think it might have been Kalkbrenner. I can't remember exactly who it was, but like it was just those kinds of simple things. Like that's a Kevin Durant thing. Like one of the easiest ways that Kevin Durant prevents as an upright wing being by dealing with problematic ball pressure. One of the ways that Kevin Durant deals with that is every time he catches, he immediately rips. Like there is no stand and hold the ball and let the ball pressure guy get up in your business. It's like with KD, every single move, he's like catching, turning, and jabbing and going, or he's catching and turning and ripping and going. He's constantly on the move. And like, those are those little things. And easily when it comes to Cooper, when you talk about his uniqueness, one of the things that I absolutely love about his game is he's very much a flow player. There's nothing stagnant about the way he plays. That's what allows him to play both on ball and off the ball. When he gets the ball, he's doing something with it quickly, and that it keeps things in flow, and that will bode well for him with future stars. Because if you want to play alongside another star one day, you got to make quick decisions off the catch. Here's
one thing I'll say about him. I don't know if he's going to be as good as an individual talent as the Jokic's, the Lukas, whatever. Those guys that seem like all-encompassing players. He might be, but what I will say is I think he is going to be an absolute championship caliber cornerstone piece because I just think he's going to be able to play with everyone. Because of all the things you say, his game is pure additive, not subtractive at all. And especially as he adds a three-point shot, like right now, I think that's the one thing you could say if it doesn't develop to be reliable and consistent, then you're going to have shooting around him or whatever. But if he can, and you fully expect, as young as he is, that he's going to improve. He's improved a lot over the last 2 years. If you just follow his arc, his shot has improved a lot. It looks better. So if he becomes a three-point shooter, I think you could literally pair him with any other super talent and it will fit because he is that dynamic of a player and his game is just purely additive. He's incredible. Last night was incredible, but he was going up against another guy that I absolutely love, and that was Knueppel with 34 points, 10 of 16 shooting. Was it 8 of 10 of 3? I thought I saw 8 of 12, but no, 8 of 12. Yeah, 8 of 12 from 3. I wrote it down wrong in my notes. And he started 8 of 9. And I love this guy too for a variety of reasons, but first and foremost, the guy knows how to shoot and he knows how to get his shot off so quickly. He is always 1 second ahead of the play in terms of getting ready for the shot. You never see him catch the ball where he has to set himself. He always anticipates when the ball is about to be in his hands and gets set early, and it's what allows him to get the shot off quickly. His first 5 threes, maybe really the first 5 or 6, were all the type where he had no margin for error. He had to be ready, and as soon as he caught it, he went up quickly with it.
Yeah, you can tell he can feel an open shot coming from the sequence that's leading up to it. And he gets his feet ready first, and he's sitting down in his stance so that when he catches the ball, he can just immediately get up into his muscle memory. It was kind of funny watching last night as like each successive shot was a little tougher than the previous one. Like early second half, he hits that off the skip pass when he kind of that Golden State action that they used to run with Klay Thompson, where it's kind of like stack, but instead of coming from underneath the basket, they come from the opposite wing. He ran that and he slipped out to the left wing and he's like leaning backwards on the shot and he hits it. Then he hits that one over the Daniel Gafford contest at the top of the key when he's sprinting to his right, plants that left foot, right foot, elevates on the move at a full sprint and hits that shot. Just unbelievable shot making. But I thought like one of the coolest plays of the game, he did this twice in the game because he split Daniel Gafford once in the first half. One of the coolest plays of the game, though, was in that fourth quarter stretch down the stretch. He beat Daniel Gafford in a high hedge and got all the way downhill on him for a layup over Klay Thompson at the rim. And if you watch him, he comes off the ball screen going to his left hand, and Daniel Gafford is in this high drop. He's way up there. And a lot of times that'll force him to give up the ball or at least force him to retreat. You could see Khan like dip low and drop that right shoulder and get really low on his drive. Yep. And then he turned the corner on Gafford. Yep. And when you beat a high hedge, like when a team essentially puts 2 on the ball and you just go around that guy and get all the way to the rim. Tyrese Maxey did this a couple times last night down the stretch in his big comeback win. When you turn the corner on a high hedge like that, it's a 5-on-3.
Defense is cooked.
Yeah, because you've got your roll man and you're downhill, and the dude guarding you and the dude who was supposed to stop you are behind you. It's like a death sentence. He gets downhill and gets that easy layup. Those are going to be the little things, because the shooting is there. That's his foundational. We were talking about Cooper at the rim as a foundational trait. The shooting is the foundational trait for Con. It's about adding all those little things. And then lastly, like a defensive play to win the game. Like he goes to throw the double team at Cooper. Cooper got a little sloppy through that chest
Let's talk
pass.
about that in a second. Yeah, because that play was wild.
Chest pass, but he just ran up with his high hands. Like there's so many, that's a fundamental thing. Like there's so many guys who are in the right place defensively, but they're not active with their hands and they're not disruptive, and it prevents opportunity there. And he literally won a game with a deflection by just making a closeout in a double team with high hands.
Well, people are going to laugh at this. He reminds me a little bit of KCP defensively in this one way. If you just watch him playing, he's never like looking around or anything like this. So I used to love KCP because every time he was on the court, he was in like defensive awareness mode. It's like he knew he couldn't give a second of distraction in his mind. So he was always like using his peripherals, locked into what his assignment was. And that's why he was such an elite defender for so many years. Knueppel is not going to be KCP, and the same caliber defender, although he's really good. I think he's actually underrated at it. But he's underrated at it because he's always locked in on that side. He's always, if you just watch him, he's always focused on the defensive end, on what is coming around the corner. And I think that's really, besides the shooting, if there's one thing about him that stands out, it's that he plays the game 1 second in the future. He's always thinking about what's about to happen on offense and on defense, so he's so dialed in. But you're talking about I want to go back to the pick and roll stuff, because yes, getting around the blitzes, also splitting the blitzes, splitting the high hedges. Mm-hmm. He's so good at it, and he's crafty. He throws the ball out in front of him, then splits it, catches up to the ball. He does every little trick. He is such a mature guard. And I was trying to figure out, there's all these players that are coming into the league mature at a young age in terms of like their feel for the game. And I can't figure out why. None more than Knueppel, by the way. He might have the most mature game of any rookie I've seen in the last like several years.
Cooper, man. It's crazy.
Cooper as well, but Cooper can get away with some things because of his size and athleticism and this and that. Knueppel doesn't have these advantages, but somehow he does everything right that you would guess he's 29 years old. But those things, I was trying to figure out why, and I actually think it is because of three-point shooting. Not his, but when the game in the high school and AAU and then college level has all like shooting and three-point shooting and spacing becomes a thing, and there's modern, we'll call modern spacing allowed. On-ball players get more NBA level reps. There's more pick and roll where the paint's not packed. If you think about lower levels from 20 years ago, you can just pack the paint, and there's two guys on the court that can't do anything with the ball outside of 5 feet, so you get away with it. I think that Knueppel looks to me like a guy who has been playing 5-out basketball for a long time and has just run 25,000 in-game pick and rolls before he got to the NBA, so his reps are higher than most players.
Well, to your point, like literally, this was the rub on Cooper. Cooper when he was in college was below 60% at the rim. And he's become a better rim finisher going into the NBA, even though he's undergone a dramatic increase in the level of competition because of the spacing and the way that the floor is set up for him. But I'm with you. Like, I think, I think that we've seen this new influx of useful role players in the NBA that are less indexed towards talent and more indexed towards read and react and the ability to play with an advantage. And again, it's really that simple. Like, I don't care if it ends up being Brandon Miller in the long run, if it ends up being LaMelo Ball, or if it ends up being, Knueppel himself creating advantage. Generally speaking, when you're a really good basketball team, you've got somebody on the team that's breaking the defense. And when you're playing against elite defenses, it's not like, oh, you run one action and get a wide open three, or you run one action and you get a wide open dunk. Usually it's an incremental process to breaking down. And so that's why it's so important to have like really quick and really efficient dribble, shoot, pass decisions off of the catch. And like, there are a lot of young players that struggle with that. I would index both Cooper and Con in this respect as players that can both function in that like advantage created already role off the ball, as well as guys that can initiate offense. And I just think in general, it's just like a market inefficiency around the league. And this is why we're seeing guys like, Will Richard with Golden State just suddenly step in and look great, because he's just a role player that knows how to play with an advantage. You can knock down a corner three, drive a closeout, make a decision in the middle of the floor when he's playing with an advantage. I just think it's an underrated trait in general around the NBA.
The dynamic you're talking about skill and talent versus like ability to read and react is, we can call it the Kuminga, like maybe the Kuminga like scale. Because if you think about it, Kuminga has all the talent in the world. Does he react that well? In my opinion, not at all. And it makes a difference. One last thing on Knueppel though. He's got a bit of a Kyle Lowry to him. I don't know if you've seen this. He has got a booty to him, and he has got a stockiness to his body that is like, he is a thick dude. Like, he is not a skinny guy at all. And as a young player, I'm very curious how that's going to work going forward, but he's not like heavy on his feet. He actually is pretty light on his feet. And I bring it up because when we talk about getting around the hedges or splitting the doubles or whatever, he knows how to only need to beat you by a quarter step. He doesn't need to get all the way around you and finish around. Once he gets you, he throws that hip right into you, and he's so good at holding you off once he gets you there. And I think that's the underrated. When people talked about the athleticism transfer to the NBA, he uses his body advantages, his physical advantages perfectly. And in a weird way, his stockiness is a strength because he knows how to use it.
No, I'm 100% with you on this. This was actually my favorite thing about him when I was scouting him over the summer coming into the league, is he's just big. And when you're a shooter, especially, because it's funny with Luka, for example, because Luka's been doing this for years. With Luka, it's like his moves. He's just very good at using like dribble moves to get a guy to lean one way a tiny bit, and then all of a sudden he's past you. But you can do it with shooting as well. And it's one of those things where once you have that little angle, you have two methods with which to beat the player. Straight line speed. If you get an angle on a dude and you can just toast him off the dribble like Tyrese Maxey, that's one way to do it. But with Tyrese, he's got to beat you, because if he doesn't beat you, he's not the kind of guy that's going to overpower you to turn that angle. You can flatten out his drive if you manage to contain him a little bit. But if you get literally, it's the play we talked about earlier, the dunk. He didn't have a clear lane to go, the Cooper Flagg one. He just had an angle. You have an angle there, you hit the gap, right? Same thing with Khan. All he needs is that little bit of an angle, and then he just sticks his body in there. Once his body's in there, he's got leverage. Once he's got leverage, you just got to methodically work downhill until you get to your spot. And I mean, we haven't talked about it yet, but this is the last piece of it. His passing ability, when he gets into those situations where he's got a defender trapped on his hip or trapped on his backside and he's starting to work downhill, he's very good at making all the reads in those situations. It's really simple. The reads are all the same for all these actions. It doesn't matter if you're running a dribble handoff. It doesn't matter if you're running a pick and roll. It doesn't matter if you're driving a closeout. You're reading the man in front of you, and you're looking at the way the weak side of the floor is reacting, and they're very similar types of reads. And that's the type of versatility you get from a player that's good with all those reads, is he can make the same reads driving a closeout that he can make turning the corner off of a dribble handoff. He's a complete offensive player. And I think, frankly, that's one of the big things with Charlotte that's super fascinating. They've been 10-5 in their last 15 games. They're good, the only team in this 15-game span with an offensive rating over 120. They've been the best offense in the league in this span, and it's really simple. I'd attribute it to two things. They have so much jump shooting talent, and they are literally the 8th best jump shooting team in the league overall and the 5th best catch and shoot jump shooting team in the entire NBA. They are such a good jump shooting team that they are constantly dictating those coverages where the bigs have to be up.
Yeah.
Brandon Miller comes off a screen, your big better be up. Khan comes off a screen, your big better be up. LaMelo Ball, he'll have nights where he's hitting that pull-up three, your big better be up. And in those situations, they cause the rotation situations, the 4-on-3s. If you can hit Diabate on the short roll, in those rotation situations, that unlocks the catch and shoot shooting. And then there's one final piece of it that kind of ties it all together. The Hornets are getting 18.6 second chance points per game over this 15-game span, which is number one in the entire NBA. They are getting 6 offensive rebounds a game from Diabate and Kalkbrenner. You want to know why? because
bigs are
every
out of
defense is
position.
in rotation, bringing their bigs up to the level.
Yeah, you're
They're
right.
such a good 3-point shooting team, especially off of these actions, that you got to bring your bigs up, and then the rollers are getting behind. And when the rollers are getting behind, they're having offensive rebound position. That's putting them in strong position to clean that up. So elite jump shooting and elite offensive rebounding are driving the best offense in the league over the last month.
It's such a good left jab, right hook combo, man, because you're constantly being pushed. The tension is pulling you in opposite directions. And yeah, they dominate teams on the boards in that way. They're so fun to watch. They're one of my favorites. But you mentioned a guy we have to talk about, which is Brandon Miller. 23 points last night on 7 of 13 shooting, 3 of 7 from the 3-point line. This is the X factor for where this Charlotte team becomes. Because I love Knueppel. LaMelo Ball, I really love and hate. Like, I mean, his goofiness and all these different things. Like, is he serious? I don't know. Is he a leader? I don't know. But Knueppel's so good that he brings a seriousness to you. And LaMelo knows how to play the game. Like, it's not a question about his IQ or feel or any of those kind of things. It's more about his, like, focus or what have you. But Brandon Miller then becomes this third piece for you that makes this 1-2-3 combo, as in your positions. He, at times, to me, like, he looks like he could go a handful of different directions still in his career. He's young enough that he can go a couple different directions. When he is his best self, you're like, yeah, that's an incredibly tall guy with a great handle and a great shot that can get downhill and attack and put pressure on the rim. And lately, he's been playing like that. I was so impressed with him for most of last game that he looked to me like a guy that was a dude, that you're like, that's a big three if you can develop those guys, and then you have workhorses in your front court. Where do you make of Brandon Miller last night and just in general what you're seeing from him lately?
Yeah, I agree with you that there's still some directions that this can go, because like there's obviously more potential for him both as a defensive player, also as like a rim attacker, short range scorer. Like, I'd argue his biggest weakness right now is short range scoring, like short jump shooting, short floaters and hook shots, things along those lines. What he is right now is an extremely gifted jump shooter. So when he comes off of three, like, he's shooting threes and pick and roll extremely well. I think he's like 38% on pull-up threes out of ball screens. That's opening up like all the basic kind of reads because of the way teams have to guard him in those situations. And overall, he's just your textbook like 50, 40, 90 kind of pull-up jump shooter type of player. But there's like a fine line between becoming like Paul George, where you're like extremely reliant on difficult shot making, which makes you streaky and can become a problem in a larger sample, versus becoming a more dynamic short range scorer that is more reliable on a possession to possession basis. So I'm with you that there's still a wide range for potential outcomes from this point looking forward, but already right now, he's a 50, 40, 90 guy on over 20 points per game as like a pull-up jump shooter. So I think there's a ton of value already for him as a jump shooter. It's just about kind of tying off the loose ends in his game. But I came out of that draft with him and Scoot thinking he was the safer bet, just as just a bigger athletic wing that could shoot. And I think he's already kind of achieved that. It's really just about where his ceiling lands at this point.
They're my favorite team going right now. Then you got guys like Diabate, again, workhorse, knows exactly what he's supposed to do. I thought he had kind of a rough game last night. I felt like he got blocked 8 times last night. He kept getting his shot blocked and like, not even like tipped, like spiked into the floor. He was having a tough night there, but he's a good player, knows what he's doing. Kalkbrenner, I think, is a good player. And then you have these placeholder guys like Josh Green and Colin Sexton, Miles Bridges. Cian James is funny because I don't know, that guy missed his calling. He might turn out to be a good player. I watched him warm up, courtside. I was watching him go through all of his paces. He works his butt off. That guy should be a running back in the NFL. Have you seen him? That guy is maybe the most ripped player in the NBA.
Yeah, Cian's super fascinating. My one thing with him that's a hang-up is sometimes on his off-the-dribble attacks, I feel like he's so bulky that his first step is a little slow, so he kind of struggles to get that like first little bit of an angle. That's more of a conversation about his ceiling, but I just in general am really high on the types of wings that are the smaller fire hydrant types. I think Christian Brown falls into this mold. I think like Lou Dort falls into this mold. Like, I'd rather have a guy in that like 6'4" to 6'6" range that's strong than a 6'7", 6'8" guy that's skinny and can get tossed around like a rag doll a little bit, just because when you get to the postseason.
Real quick on this, though, this is what's interesting is you look at Zion James and you're like, okay, perfect body, ripped. I mean, it looks unbelievable. And then you look at Knueppel and you're like, okay, stocky and like a deady short stack of pancakes. And one of those guys knows how to use their body so well. Like Zion is quick and his game is like trying to make explosive moves, and then he's getting blocked at the rim over and over again, and he can't create all the separation. But he has the body to learn from his teammate, Knueppel, of like, hey, quickness is the first step, and then use it the other way. And maybe he actually will pick that up, but we'll have to wait and see. All right, we went really long on this game because it was so great. Yeah, it was a really fun game. I mean, mostly Cooper Flagg on that side, and then obviously a lot of guys on the Charlotte side. But if you missed it, this would be a good one to go back and watch. It was a fun, very enjoyable game with a lot of big-time shot making.
Back and forth down the stretch, too, yeah.
Oh, we didn't even talk, actually. Well, real quickly, just give me like 20 seconds on Cooper Flagg was so great all game, but I do think the last play he made, why did he pass it in that spot? He wasn't doubled. There was time.
Well, so Con was coming with the double, but it was I thought it was a textbook fatigue turnover. And this is like the mental fatigue. Like you learn, I'm a big believer in scar tissue that comes from losses. Like you every time you lose a game like that sucks so bad. Like, Cooper, you have 48 and you lose in that way. Like, it's just going to eat at him, right? And then that'll be the thing that drives him to avoid making that mistake. But winning is about mental focus through the finish line. And like, just on one possession at the end of a game, Knueppel was coming with the double. He wasn't even there yet, but he was on his way to double. And Cooper's just like, all right, I'm just going to get rid of the basketball. And he threw a chest pass. And it's like, we all know when it comes to the fundamentals, when you're playing against a strong, strong defensive effort with active hands, it's pass fakes. It's finding angles to actually get the pass off, like making sure that you get it to the right man in the right spot where he can capitalize on the advantage. And it's just like, I thought he just relented with his mental focus for 1 second.
He did. And
he threw a lazy chest pass, and Con happened to have active hands, and he got the turnover. And I mean, to Cooper's credit, he tried to hustle back and make a play, and, it's a foul, but like, I mean, he was there. He kind of got him clean up top. But it was just like, it's just a brief lapse of mental focus that cost him the game.
I want to watch that more in the future with him because he was so good. And on that play, I was like, ooh, there it is. That play was so different from the level of energy and aggression of every other play in the game. But, live and learn, like you said. Let's take a break. On the other side, we're going to spend 10 to 15 minutes on the Thunder falling again to the Timberwolves, 123-111. And then we're going to talk about Giannis, Steven Adams, and Aaron Gordon. We'll get to that on the other side. What kind of dreams did you have when you were a kid? What did you want to be when you grew up? How about now? Are you thinking about starting your own business? Make 2026 the year you actually do it. Shopify is the e-commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S. Shopify even powers the All City merch store. Yes, you can buy merch up on our website. Shopify has got you covered with website creation, product descriptions, email and social media marketing, and so much more. They also have AI tools that are designed to help you maximize sales. If you're ready to sell, you are ready for Shopify. Turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your side. That's the little sound it'll make right on your phone every time you get a sale. Sign up for your $1 per month trial. That's an insane deal. $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/allcity. That's shopify.com/allcity. Fast breaks, buzzer beaters, and block parties are back, and Underdog is the best place to get in on all of the action. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like points, rebounds, steals, and more. Get your picks right, and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. So let's take a look. This is what I built for today. James Harden, we got Clippers, Nuggets. Nuggets on a back-to-back, shorthanded. I'm going to take higher, 24.5 points. I think that they've had some rest. Denver has not. I like that one. I'm looking at Cleveland at Phoenix. Donovan Mitchell, 31.5 points. Lower. I'm trusting the Phoenix Suns defense. That's where I'm going with that one. And my last one for today, Luka Doncic and the Lakers taking on the Wizards. Luka's going to go nuts. 33.5 points. Higher. I'm taking that one. That's my roster. Let me know what you guys think. Download the app today and use promo code ALLNBA to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code ALLNBA. Underdog. Make picks. Win money. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms_DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 HOPE line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. All right, back here, segment 2 of the All-NBA show, me and Jason Timpf. If you're enjoying the show, please do us a huge favor. Hit the like button and make sure you're subscribed. And if you're really feeling generous and want to help us grow the show, share it on social media. We always try to get back to hoops, talking about the actual games and keeping all the other stuff out of it. So if you appreciate it, make sure you do those things. Let's get to another great game. Timberwolves beat the Thunder last night, 123-111, controlled the game, and they controlled it for a very specific reason. If you recall, we had Chris Finch, I think 2 months ago, go crazy at the officials and go take a fine and say all these things that I happen to agree with about how the game is allowed to be called for the Oklahoma City Thunder. But I think all teams have kind of learned when we play the Thunder, and maybe even when we don't play them, just in general, just make the physicality so absurd that refs don't know what to do. If you just watch the highlights reel of Dante DiVincenzo playing defense last night against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I think he fouled him no fewer than 30 times. But you know what? That's exactly what the Thunder have always done with Lou Dort and with their guys. They played so physical, and teams are kind of doing this to the Thunder right now. They're just roughing them up. And it's almost a weird, you know how it says like the physical team will set the tone? The Thunder are going to do this anyway. So when you do it to them, refs almost, it works doubly, where teams look at it and are like, well, I can't call fouls on both teams every time down the court. So I'm just going to allow whatever it is that DiVincenzo did last night. He had one play they didn't call where he kind of shoves him like this and
at
then
the end
pokes
of the
the ball
steal,
away.
yeah.
It was crazy. And they just allowed it to happen.
Yeah, you know, in OKC's not the biggest team in the world. So if you turn it into a physical bloodbath going both ways, I think that's something that you can actually start to use your specific advantage. We've talked about this a lot over the years, but whether it's Denver via the Jokic, Gordon, MPJ front line, or whether it was, you know, big ball handlers, so team like the Luka LeBron dynamic, they had a really good regular season, couple of games in Oklahoma City last year. I think Minnesota falls into this group too, even with Naz Reid and Julius Randle and even Anthony Edwards to a certain extent. Like there are times where Cason Wallace is guarding him and I'm like, dude, you're too small. You know, You can have legitimate size advantages. If you have a combination of like size, ball handling, and shooting, you can score on this Oklahoma City defense. But like you've got to survive the physical battle and you have to meet Oklahoma City's fight and you have to meet them at that level. And you know, one of the other things too, specifically with respect to Shai, because like we're going to dive into this concept in more detail here in a minute, but Oklahoma City can't score when Shai's off the floor when they are missing their ball handling because they don't really have much of it. But one of the dynamics that opens up is throughout this season, the Thunder have scored when Shai's by himself. When Shai's on the floor, but J-Dub and AJ Mitchell are off, they still have a 120 offensive rating this season, which is a testament to Shai as an MVP candidate. I think Shai's kind of a runaway MVP this year thanks to the Jokic injury. And so, like, I think he's deserving. And I think he deserves a ton of credit for carrying that offense. But it turns into a wear and tear game. Like, okay, if it's going to be Shai, like in a game like last night, and like I get it, the Thunder are missing some key rotation players, although it was good to see Isaiah Hartenstein back out there. But when you have key rotation players out, you're not going to get sympathy from the rest of the league. Everyone's dealing with that sort of thing. And so it's just about winning that particular game. And why not just get up in his jersey and be super physical with him all night and see if you can't make things difficult and wear him down a little bit. It's the way teams try to guard in that sort of situation. And so I thought in general, Minnesota just has done a good job in both of their last two matchups with OKC of just kind of mucking things up.
100%. And I really do think that this is the adjustment. I mean, I've always said this, that the difficulty of repeating and repeating, and why I have respect for the teams that have done it in the past, is that teams start just trying to figure you out. Like you're always trying to figure the league out and you figure yourself out. But when there's one team to chase, everyone kind of spends extra energy just looking for the weaknesses. And I think this is especially true in today's NBA. If you go back to the year 2000, there were 6 coaches on the bench and maybe a couple scouts. Right now, every team has like 14 coaches and 38 scouts and all these different people that are working around the clock to try to give themselves an advantage. So now that's the point they're at, and I really do think this physicality thing is the way that everything's going. Houston can get physical, although we're going to talk in a second. They lost a little physicality in their front court. Not a little, a lot. But they have a lot on the perimeter still that can get physical. Minnesota obviously has this in droves. Phoenix, it's a big reason why they've been able to play well so far. This year they have some of this. And then you go to the other conference, Detroit. This is their calling card. We talked about it on our show on Wednesday with Legler. They know how to get physical. Boston does. Toronto does, who they just lost to. Oklahoma City just lost to. There's a lot of teams that have slowly moved towards the Oklahoma City direction of, okay, this is how you win in today's NBA. You get incredibly physical before the ball gets moving. Because when guys get moving, this is Shai's skill, is he creates separation. And once he's moving and you try to get physical, you collide and it's a foul. But if you can get into him like DiVincenzo did, just get under him so he has no momentum and then really get handsy and physical, refs just seem to be allowing this right now. And it's the direction the NBA is moving.
Yeah, I've been complaining about this with the Lakers forever because they just don't pressure the ball at all. When you don't pressure the ball, you allow a talented ball handler who's practicing these moves thousands and thousands of times over the course of the last few years to get into his bag. And now when he's getting into his bag, he's reacting to you. So let's say he goes to like an in and out between the legs dribble and does a hard dribble to his right. If he's past you, he's past you. But if he sees you overreact, he's going to get into a snatch back dribble and he's going to get into his moves. To your point, the foul grifters might even try to get into your body and try to draw contact that way. But if you actually get up into a ball handler before he can get into his bag, you kind of control the pace of that dribble drive. You kind of like put things into your terms instead of their terms like you can actually force them to go a particular direction. You could force them to use a specific move. Like there's a lot you can do with ball pressure. And it's like, honestly, it's one of the big reasons why I really like that Minnesota team and why, like, I think that we're going to talk about this, honestly,
100%.
Like, I'm really hesitant about them going like, let's get rid of Jaden McDaniels and let's get rid of, whoever else they need to get rid of in order to get the necessary draft compensation. I'm like, I think what Dante and Jaden do is very, very foundational to what makes the Timberwolves a very good basketball team. So it's a very important part of their dynamic that I wouldn't tinker with if I was them.
1,000%. It's championship, modern day basketball championship caliber pieces. It's like it's part of the formula. Before we go to the Giannis thing, the Oklahoma City Thunder are now 38-11. San Antonio Spurs are 32-15. 4 games in the loss column. This is actually way closer than we anticipated it being. Still a lot. But more importantly, the Detroit Pistons are 34-12. That's only 1 game separating them now. What are the odds in your mind that Oklahoma City does not have the number 1 overall seed going into the postseason?
I would be stunned if they didn't have the number 1 overall seed, just because I think they have enough foundationally. Like, there are ebbs and flows that take place within every season, as we all know. And for instance, Detroit's kind of in a little bit of a slump right now as they've just struggled offensively to score. Cade's dealing with a wrist injury. It's been a little bit of a problem. And the Thunder are definitely in that. This is an extended stretch, Adam. They're 14-10 over their last 24 games. That's like a long time of mediocre basketball. But at the same time, like I think, first of all, they're starting to get healthier. I think like you could already see Hartenstein having a power player in the pocket. There was a play where Shai hit him in the pocket. And he just powered through Gobert for like a left-handed finish out of the pocket. And I'm like, Chet's a really good player, but Hartenstein just brings a different dynamic. They've been legitimately the worst rebounding team in the league in that 24-game span. Hartenstein will help them there. When AJ Mitchell gets back, as we'll talk about in a minute, he anchors them on offense. So I am convinced that the Thunder will finish with the number 1 overall seed. But I think what has been revealed in this recent stretch is how specifically thin they are in terms of their ability to compromise the defense off the dribble. So like this actually stood out for me for the first time in the Pacers series in the finals. I'm digging into it and I'm like, okay, why do they struggle against Denver? It was very much a jump shooting thing. It was very much like Denver was able to run a lot of zone. They were able to run a lot of like passive coverages where they were sagging off, sitting in the paint. And then obviously what Denver does with their size and playmaking and shooting on offense to score on the Thunder. But the way Indiana kept things close with Oklahoma City was very much a ball pressure game. They were up in J-Dub and Shai all series long, and you could see Shai getting fatigued by the fact that they didn't really trust any of these other guys to really initiate offense for them other than J-Dub or Shai.
Right.
And so it put a ton of responsibility on them. And they won, but it got pushed to 7 in large part because they had a little bit of deficit of ball handling. And I think it's really fascinating because, like, as I look at this team moving forward, one of the biggest reasons why I don't view them as like a juggernaut, even though for the record, they're my number one championship contender. I would pick them to win the title if the season ended today. I think they deserve to be the favorite to win the title, even though I think other teams are on that tier. They're my number one still, but I think they're a lot more vulnerable than I felt earlier in the year when I thought they were kind of in a tier by themselves. And a big part of that is, like, now I'm looking at it, I'm like, if J-Dub, like, let's say he's healthy in the playoffs, but he's a shell of himself because he's coming back from a hamstring injury. And because he's had multiple hamstring injuries, maybe he's looking at the situation. Maybe he's looking at the situation going, I don't trust my first step very much. Yeah. So I'm going to be a little bit more steadily with my jump shot or something like that. That sort of dynamic could tilt the dribble penetration dynamic for OKC in a dangerous direction. Like, you know who's suddenly super, super valuable to this team is AJ Mitchell. Because he actually has a quicker first step than J-Dub, and he's actually very good at getting that first bit of dribble penetration. Like, when J-Dub and AJ are out, Shai is the only guy who can break the defense down.
Yeah.
And so I do think that lack of depth and that specific positional need, like, this team is deep as all hell in every other category. But when it comes to that specific dynamic, it causes their shot quality to dip, and they're not a very good contested jump shooting team. We've talked about this on the show. They're very good when they're wide open. They are terrible at shooting the basketball under any sort of duress. So, like, they need dribble penetration to generate the quality of shots they need. And so all it means is that there's just like a tiny little flaw that is potentially exploitable for a team that, you know, otherwise would be considered far and away the best team in the league.
I'll go further. Their 3 toughest matchups right now, in my opinion, are San Antonio, who's beat them 3 times, Minnesota, who's beat them twice, and Denver, who they have not yet played. They play on Sunday, but obviously took them to 7 with a significantly worse roster. They're going to might have to play all 3 of those teams in the playoff. That might be their path. And I think all 3 of those teams have something legitimate against them. Not like, you know, the fluke this or that. I'm not saying they're better than the Thunder, but they're certainly teams that have something they can hang their hat on against them. And that's why this playoffs is going to be fascinating. And Oklahoma City, they're a great team. They have had some injuries. Everybody has this year, though. You know, like, they've had maybe more than most, but you look at every single team around and you're like, this is one of the hard things about analyzing this season for me is there's very few teams where I feel like I've seen their best punch like long enough. I keep looking at these compromised versions of every team.
Yeah.
And Oklahoma City is one of them. But I still look at it and say, yeah, but the things that Minnesota does, getting physical, having big defenders that pressure their ball handlers, San Antonio, all the issues they present before you even get to Wemby, and then you add Wemby. And then we know Denver and the pressure Jokic has put on that team. They have some better shooting this year, which is really the reason Oklahoma City escaped last year against them. I just think that they're going to have a tough road, man. But I want to ask you now, we got 3 quick hitters now as we get out of the games. Giannis has been attached to a couple new teams now. One of them being the Minnesota Timberwolves. And boy, is this one difficult. First of all, I know Tim Connelly well enough to know he would make a gamble like that. He would just love a gamble like this because if you could put Anthony Edwards and Giannis together, even if you have to rebuild your roster, tear things down and rebuild and you lose a bunch of assets, that is 2 of the 7 best players in the NBA at worst together, and you get a long extended runway. And oh, by the way, just the physical, before you get into the skill sets and how they fit, the physical dominance of those 2 players is going to put pressure on every team. I totally get it. But at the same time, what you would give up to get that is probably contention this year. And, you know, like now you're going to have to really strain to put a team around them even in the offseason. So this one's so fascinating to me because I believe in the Timberwolves. I think they can win a championship this year. I'm one of the people that believes in them to that level. And yet, boy, would it be crazy to pair Ant and Giannis.
Yeah, so when Sham's report came out and he mentioned Minnesota and New York, my first reaction was like, how? Like, what? You know, and then obviously, you know, you do some digging and it's like, oh, they're actually considering like breaking apart their rosters to make this happen. So
only way you could make that work, man.
You know, the Knicks would have to include at least Mikal Bridges, if not another one of their high-level 2-way role players. And the Wolves would have to include at least Jaden McDaniels, if not 2 of their high-level role players. Now, I don't love the idea for either team because you're not trading for 26-year-old Luka Doncic. You're trading for 31-year-old Giannis, who's missed 8 of his last 16 playoff games. and who has had 2 calf strains this year, and he's in his early 30s now. And so like Giannis, to me, it's not like trading for 35-year-old Paul George either. Like you're getting a bona fide top tier superstar, but you're getting a guy that's going to come with some injury and age related concerns. If you're New York, at least you can go with the like, Cat and Brunson is fundamentally broke. We can't actually win this year anyway. Why not try something crazy? Like, I can at least see that case. But even then, I'm like, this is your best shot to win the East out of this entire era. And what if some team out of the West just limps into the finals, beat to hell, and you have a chance to upset them and win the title? Like, I even think with the Knicks, there's some question marks there. But if at the very least you're like, Brunson and Cat is fundamentally flawed, let's do something crazy, I get that. The thing is like you, Adam, I'm super high on Minnesota as currently constructed. And like, when you look at their roster, let's say, for instance, they move Jaden to facilitate this deal. Rudy is what, 33? He's older than that, actually.
Might be.
I think, Julius is 33. I think Gobert might be 35, 36.
No, he's 33. His birthday's in June, so
he's 33. Julius is 33. I mean, like, even Dante's in his late 20s now. You know, like, these guys are older. So Giannis is 31. You give up your sustainability for this kind of move. Yeah. Like, a trade for Giannis could end in a title. It could also end in you trading Ant in 3 years. Because all of a sudden you've got old Giannis, old Gobert, and
assets.
The team's not good enough, right? So Jaden McDaniels, in addition to being 25 years old, is shooting 44% on threes this year. Has had, like, I can't remember the exact number, but he's had like 9 or 10 20-point games this year. Like, he's been a guy that's shown real potential to go off in high scoring totals. Legitimately one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. That doesn't mean you don't trade for Giannis. I'm just saying it's a lot more complicated because, to me, Jaden McDaniels is the guy that gives you potential sustainability. Like, the version of the Timberwolves that still has Anthony Edwards 5-6 years from now probably still has Jaden McDaniels. And so that's where I think, like, it's just more complicated for me with Minnesota because you're already a top tier contender, in my opinion. You already are building continuity year over year. All the internal improvement from Ant, from Jaden, even from Rudy, who's catching and finishing better than ever before this year. All of that has made them feel like a real threat to me this year. And I just think it'd be really sad if they made a move for Giannis and then Giannis got hurt and then Anthony Edwards was in trade conversations in 2 or 3 years. So, like, I think it's way less clean than like a Golden State where it's like, we're blowing this thing up in 2 or 3 years anyway. You know, let's bring in Giannis. Steph is 38 in March. Like, this is a high risk, high reward situation, but we're in high risk territory. I don't think Minnesota in particular is in high risk territory. But you said Tim Conley's like that, so maybe.
Well, he is like that. But the other thing about Tim Conley was, if you look at Denver, he really valued continuity when he was here, and he made moves like for Aaron Gordon, which I would make analogous to Julius Randle. You know, like you're completing the second or third option type guy on a team, but the role players stayed consistent, the stars stayed consistent. And you're not moving that many pieces year to year. Giannis would obviously represent a complete change of direction, but I don't know. It's a tough one, man. Let me know in the comments what you think on this one. I think it's tough. I'm curious. I'm still skeptical that Giannis gets moved before the deadline, but we'll see.
Can I jump in here on that, though?
Yeah.
I don't think it's fair to Giannis at all to be like, hey, dude, sit out another playoff run with that trash Milwaukee Bucks team so that we can get an extra pick. Like,
why? He hasn't asked for a trade.
It'd be one thing if they were like, we know we're going to get AJ DeBonsa. Like, if we wait till the summer, guaranteed AJ DeBonsa, I'd be like, okay, I get it. But, like, on the off chance that you might get a slightly better return to handcuff Giannis for another year, like,
first of all, handcuff, he's not asked for a trade.
Yeah, he hasn't asked for a trade.
Hey, Jason,
but he won't now for the optics. Like, what happened on Wednesday was Giannis requesting a trade. It just it's not hidden under a package of something different.
This is your Lakers coming out, I think. You know, where like this is the thing. All these athletes want to have their cake and eat it too. And to me, I'm like, if we truly are in the era of like there's no loyalty or whatever, and that's fine. I'm not even complaining about it. It's just that You have to do the thing, man. That means you have to. If you don't get to both be beloved and demand trades and all of these different things, you have to come out and just say, yes, this is what I want. Not behind the scenes, not through your agent who you say you have no control over. Everybody knows it's a lie. Just come out. Say, you know what? I gave Milwaukee a championship. That's enough, by the way. That's enough. Okay. You fulfilled your obligation at the highest level. And Milwaukee did let you down by not giving you a great team. But you still got to come out and do the thing and say, look, I appreciate everyone, but I want out.
Yeah, demand is such a strong word too, but like, and I understand the optics that Giannis is trying to avoid, but I don't think he would ruin his beloved status in Milwaukee by coming out. Me either. By like, hey guys, it's time.
No, like, he says, look at the team they gave me,
and it's best for you if we just do this.
Yep. And he's right. Look at the team they gave him. What is he supposed to do with it? Like, everybody would understand. But like I said, we don't get to play the soft politics behind the scene and then, do this. You just got to come out and say, hey, if this is how it works, this is how it works. And yes, I want to trade. And put the pressure on. Like, just come out and do it. A big story here, two big injury things to go over. Steven Adams is out for the year. We learned this 2 days ago. What a blow to the Houston Rockets. I look at this and say, I was very strong in my takes on my other show that this move to me means I do not think the Houston Rockets can win a championship as presently constructed. He was such a big part of their identity. I don't think it's replaceable, and they don't have enough of an offensive identity aside from their offensive rebounding, their physicality, for me to believe in them as a championship team. So that means I think they have to do something here at the deadline to give some new identity. I don't think you can replace Adams with another brute. You have to like pivot to something else. Do you agree with me though that this move depletes their like punch enough that you don't believe they are better than all the teams that are in the Western Conference right now that can be contenders?
So it's tough because anytime you lose a player that's not definitively in your top 5, like that you're going to close games with, I'm hesitant to like use like death sentence or like this team cannot win as a descriptor, just because, it's still going to be really difficult to beat Houston in a playoff series with KD and Şengün and Amen Thompson and Jabari Smith and, whether it's Reed Shepherd or it's Tari Eason, whoever it is that's on the floor, it's still going to be difficult to deal with the team in that sort of situation. I think where it really hurts them is like in the differentiation between the top tier and the second tier. So for instance, like Steven Adams buys you a look. Like they still offensive rebound well without Steven Adams. They rebound this year 37% of their own misses when Steven Adams is off the floor. So it's not as dynamic as it is when he's on the floor, where it's more like 45% of their misses, but they still are a very good offensive rebounding team. They still can generate margin. They still can force turnovers and get out in transition. And as I said, their core 5 is still difficult to handle. But let's say you face a Denver. You don't think a Steven Adams lineup would be heavily featured in a Denver lineup? Oklahoma City,
right. No
where
question.
You're trying to dodominate the rebounding margin. Like,
by the way, Minnesota dominated the boards last night is a big part of why they won.
Exactly. And so as I look at them in general with a playoff team, I want to see a team that can take different shapes and sizes, because typically you need to have different versions of yourself to beat 4 different opponents over the course of 2 months, 4 times out of 7. And taking Steven Adams out, like Clint Capella has played well for stretches, but he's not Steven Adams. And so if you remove Steven Adams, they just kind of lack that punch. Without that punch, I don't think their main punch is good enough. I agree with you. I would probably slide them down to that second tier of contenders, but I still think they have a shot to win it all. I still think they've done enough with their core groups to demonstrate that.
I'm out on the Rockets as contenders. They got to make a move. We'll see what they do. Lastly, though, Aaron Gordon, the Denver Nuggets, also has another hamstring strain. This one's going to hold him out 4 to 6 weeks. I put this one out on Twitter. Aaron Gordon is such a great player, but it has now been nearly 2 full seasons, halfway through the 23-24 season, since he has played 16 consecutive games. And this is not like just missed a rest day. They rested him on second night of a back-to-back. This is something has popped up. Calf strain, hamstring strain, these little nagging injuries. It's basically been going on for 2 seasons now. He's out for 4 to 6 weeks, which means even if he comes back and the Nuggets are fully healthy, which they have not been except for 11 games this year at the start of the season, that means they'll have about a 20-game runway to end the year to come together as a team. How big of a deal do you think this is for Denver?
So I think it's a big deal in the sense that, similar to what we were talking about with J-Dub, like Aaron Gordon needs to be healthy for the Nuggets to win the title. I think that goes without saying. But I read another one of your tweets, actually. It might have been last night or this morning when I was scrolling. But when you were talking about how, like, him being out now doesn't necessarily mean too much. Like, this team has just shown such strong basketball character top down in their roster, and they've just had so many contributions, like between Peyton Watson stepping in the rise that he's been on. Zeke Naji, the Arizona guy, obviously from Tucson. I was a big fan of his when he was there. Like, it's been cool just seeing him kind of resuscitate his value into a useful kind of dynamic forward small ball center type that they can go to. Like, they've had all these guys step up, and they've actually got kind of like a depth surplus so substantial that, like, Aaron Gordon being out may only make the difference between 2 or 3 regular season wins over that span if Jokic is healthy. Like, if Jokic is
possibly
out there,
zero, by the way, possibly zero. I mean, Denver has a lot of depth this year, and AG's a great player, but Denver can play in a regular season. They play around it.
Yeah, like let's say Jokic comes back in 2 weeks with or without.
Hold on, JT, you ready? What if Jokic comes back tonight?
Is he coming back tonight? Maybe we'll see.
I mean, okay. I don't know. You know what? Maybe what if he comes back tonight, JT?
I'm down. Let's say he comes back tonight, regardless of what happened with Aaron Gordon. Like, to your point, I don't think this injury affects where they land in the standings very much at all. Maybe a couple of games. That's just a testament to how strong this roster is and why I'm such a big believer in them when they're fully healthy. But again, there's a combination of like 3-point shooting, matchup attacking in the high post area, defensive rebounding, continuity, vertical spacing. There's like a half dozen different things that Aaron Gordon does that I think are very important to, like, we beat Oklahoma City and we beat San Antonio and we beat Houston and now we're hoisting the trophy version of the Nuggets, that I would be at least a little bit concerned. I was going to ask you this, actually. Do you think, because, like, so for instance, in the Aaron Gordon matchup against the Lakers, they had him guard LeBron. Do you think there's a version of this where when they bring him back, they stop using him as a perimeter defender and just basically keep him on the back line and just try to limit his workload within games?
It's such a good question. What I've thought about is, I don't know if that's where the injuries are happening to him right now or how you preserve him. One of the two things I think about with him is, one, his calling card to this point in his career has been, he's so strong. He's Julius Randle strong, and he's mobile, and he does all these different things. And I think that is a tough combo. Like, everybody wants to blame somebody, and maybe there is some blame to go around. But sometimes guys are just both strong, big, and athletic, and it's like a tough combo to maintain health. And I wonder for him if he has to, like, segue into a slightly thinner player. That the strength that is, I'm too big for your quick guys and too quick for your big guys, that combo might go away in the back half of his career, and he has to be a little bit more traditional, long, a little thinner. He's never going to be skinny, but if he lost like maybe 5 to 10 pounds and was a little less power and a little more perimeter, that just might be the only way to save his body.
Yeah, and I would argue also just him becoming a knockdown 3-point shooter was such an important element of, like, kind of this transition. Because I'm with you. He's got to transition into a different version of himself. His body clearly can't handle it anymore. But yeah, I think in general, it's probably time for the Nuggets and Aaron to consider changing the way his body moves on the court.
Yeah. We'll have to see, man. I think that Denver's going to survive this regular season part. I think the part that scares me is, can he make it through 4 rounds of a playoffs? I don't know, man. I just don't know. And
completely reasonable.
I don't think Denver needs him in the regular season. He's been with the team for so long that, like I'm not worried about him, like, gelling with the team. He knows his role. He knows what he does. So he could come back with 3 games to go, and I would still feel fine about it. The issue is, can he make it through 4 rounds? Last year, he was phenomenal in the playoffs, and he went down in game 5, I believe, game 5 of that second round series. And it's like, it felt like that's about as long as he can last in the playoffs. He can last about 12 games, and then he's out. We'll see what happens with Denver, because if he's healthy, I still like him as well as anybody, and we'll have to see what happens. Let's end the show, though, real quickly with our FanDuels of the night. This is presented by FanDuel. These are the games on the docket for tonight. Lakers, Wizards, Grizzlies, Pels, Raptors, Magic, Blazers, Knicks, Kings at Celtics, Cavs at Suns, Clippers, Nuggets, Nets, Jazz, Pistons, Warriors. What are you locked into there, JT?
Clippers Nuggets is a big one. Cavs Suns, I think will be interesting. Pistons Warriors, because the Pistons have been playing kind of poorly, and Golden State's got this new influx of belief surrounding a potential Giannis trade. I wouldn't be surprised if Golden State presented a tough challenge for them there, but the Pistons need a win to kind of cleanse their palate a little bit. So I think Pistons Warriors will be the one I'm keyed in on the most.
Keyed in on this Nuggets game tonight. We'll see what happens with it. Very excited. Clippers the hottest team in basketball right now. Nuggets on a back-to-back and look exhausted, but maybe reinforcements are on the way. Cue that outro music. Cue that outro music for us. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. I'm back with Tim Legler on Sunday. We have a little bit of no Mark Stein this week because we're going to roll Mark Stein twice into next week around the trade deadline, which I think will be great. So we're going to have another episode with Legler over the weekend, but you can catch Jason Timpf on Hoops Tonight over on his channel, and you can make sure you support this channel. All of you watching, we got a lot of regulars in the chat every single day. You guys help make the show what it is. So leave us a comment below, share it out on social media, and just help us keep growing this thing. Hit the like button for us on the way out. We'll see you Sunday.
We all silly like the mayor.